Hey everyone, it's Robbie here with Muddy Beards. Today, I'm going to be replacing the stepper motors out of the instrument cluster on a 2005 Chevrolet Silverado. Alright, so here's the issue here. The stepper motors are actually the little servos in the instrument cluster that actually control the needles and all your gauges. And over time they can wear out, especially in these GM trucks. I know it's a fairly common issue. And the needles will sometimes just like die, or they get stuck, or they'll shudder. In the case of mine, even with the truck turned off, I mean, it says I'm going, nearly 60 miles an hour. Even when I turn it on, the speedometer is still stuck. So I have like no idea how fast I'm going, and a lot of times the tack needle too will just completely stop working. So I have to take the instrument panel out. I'm gonna have to open it up, and then I'm gonna show you the process of how to change out those stepper motors. So the first step that I'm gonna have to do, if I take is move the lever all the way down, because it kind of makes it easier to get the dash out. And then what I need to do is take out the whole dash. So that's actually kind of simple. Let's see here so you guys can see. Pretty much it just comes out by hand. If I take my hands on the top, I can actually just kind of pull it free. Mine's a little bit more of a pain because of this silly radio screen thing here. I didn't put this in, but if I just pull this out here, that pops out, and then you kind of have to push down on the top here. These clips kind of push down, if you notice. Sorry about the angle there, but I should be able to just basically slide this thing out and take it out. Turn on my flashers there. And then, I believe they're just 7mm bolts that basically hold in the instrument cluster. There's one down there, there's one up here, and there's two others on the other side. So all I gotta do is unscrew those things, and I should be able to take the whole cluster out. You definitely want to be careful not to drop these. You definitely use two hands, and I would unthread them by hand, because you don't want to drop them inside the dash. It'd be really hard to get out. So now that I got all the bolts out, I can actually take this thing out here. Kind of slides out this way, and I can kind of pull it this way. And let's see if I can show you. It just has, come on now, this little electrical connector as I'm dropping the cluster all over the place. And so all I gotta do is just basically squeeze. I'm trying to show you guys. It's hard to get my hand in there and film it at the same time, but essentially you squeeze up on the blue tab and on the gray tab at the same time, and it should pull right out. Let's see. I may have to put the camera down to get this out. Ugh. Okay, well there it is. So now I gotta go bring this thing on the bench so I can start working on these stepper motors. Okay, so now that I got it down here on a desk and I'm nice and comfortable, I gotta take this thing apart. So it has these little clips that run across the top. So I'm gonna take the front face off first. Just gotta kind of pop all the clips off. There's a couple down here that you might need a little screwdriver for to kind of push the tabs in. Just slide this out. So for these bottom tabs, it's a little tricky. If you can stick the screwdriver in here, Trying to see if you guys can see that. Basically, you can kind of push this tab up from the bottom and you push it out and then you can pop it off. Alright, so once you get those bottom tabs out, you can literally just pull the top ones and the entire top comes off. Okay. So this is where I want to use just some tape. So the reason why is you want to mark where the needles are zeroed out. So I kind of want to show you that here. Each of these needles, if you push them counterclockwise, you can get to see where they're zeroed out, and you should feel a little bit of resistance there. Right where that zero out is, where you feel the little bit of the resistance, and I want to mark where that dead zero is. So I can literally just do that, and then I can take a pen and just mark where that dead zero is on each one of these. That way when I go to put the needles back on, I can actually put them back in the right spot. You notice I have them all marked now, and again, so what I did was you notice I kind of messed up here actually. Again, if you move counterclockwise, you can actually literally feel the needle kind of have a little bit of resistance, and so it's actually lower than you think it is. You know, the bottom of the tack is actually probably this mark, but when the instrument cluster is turned off, the needles are actually zeroed further down, and so you want to make sure that when you set these things back up, if you want it to read accurately, you got to go all the way down, and you can feel it just kind of make a resistance right there. And so then that's where I marked it. So I got all of them marked, okay? And once I get them all marked, I can actually go ahead and pull the needles off. And so if you basically, you just slide this tool under here, they kind of just, again, I'm doing this with one hand, but they should just pop off. Gotta be very careful here not to break them, but, well, you should probably be a little bit more careful than that, but then again, I'm trying to do this with one hand with the camera. And definitely make sure that you notate which needle goes where. I believe, yeah, they're the same length. So basically all four of these are the same length, and I think the two for the tack and the speedometer are all the same length. So I'm going to go ahead and pop all these off. So now once I get all the needles pulled off, you can actually go ahead and remove this so that it doesn't flap around all over the place when you're trying to work here. And again, be very careful. It's just got little tabs on it. Make sure your tape doesn't come off. Just kind of place it to the side. But now, what I want to do is I want to actually pop off the back, and it's basically the same thing. It's just got these clips that I can just kind of do by hand. And here is the circuit board. And so what I'm looking for is actually these little solder joints. And so the main ones that I want to replace are the speedometer and the tachometer. So I gotta make sure that I know exactly where they come in, which I believe is these four solder joints here. And essentially I have to unsolder them. So I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna do that. Alright, well here is the stepper motor that I want to replace with the speedometer, and so I need to notate which way it goes in so that I know that the little needle here should be at the bottom. Come on, focus up. And when I flip this thing over, okay, I need to make sure that I am on the right solder joints. Here, you can actually see where the back piece of the plastic comes through, and the solder joints are these four solder joints. So there's a couple ways I can do that. What I have here is a solder sucker. That's what I'm going to use. I know you can use that like copper braid stuff too, but this seems to work really well. And basically what I got to do is just get those, you know, just a little hot. You don't want to be too hot because you are working on a circuit board here. And then all I got to do is just click this button, and it basically is just a plunger, and it sucks it up. And so I just got to get it hot, and then boom, and it'll actually suck up. And so once I get all 4 solder joints undone, I can actually pull out the old stepper motor and put in the new one. So I'm going to see if I can actually get this on film here of me doing this. So again, I'm just going to want to get it just liquid enough. And it basically sucks it right up. I have shaky hands. Probably drank too much coffee to do this. Okay. So I should be able to pull out the stepper motor. And there it is. Okay. So what I need to do is take one of my new ones and again make sure that I'm putting it in correctly with the needle down. And so if I put this thing in here, it should just basically push straight through. And now I just have to resolder. Gosh, this thing doesn't want to focus when I zoom in. Resolder on those 4 little prongs that go through. So let's see if I can get this on film. Okay, so now, there you go, all 4 are resoldered. I need to do the rest of the little ones. I might as well do them even though they're working fine. I want to do all the oil pressure and stuff like that as well. And then I'm going to put this thing back together and make sure it all works. Alright, so I'm just going to put the back piece back together here first. Then I'm going to flip it around. Make sure that my odometer reset button there. Get this put back on. Slides into these little tabs here. Little tabs, and then you can hear it kind of push down when you get it in there. And then I'm going to want to put all my needles back. And remember, I got to put them back in that correct spot. So push the needle down. There we go. And now I can take a little piece of tape off. Go ahead and pop the front piece back on here. Alright, so I got it all fitted back together. and I'm gonna put it in here. You guys can't really see it, but make sure that the gray part of the tag goes in on top. And let's see if I can't get this thing fitted into place. All right, well, before I go test drive it, or before I bolt it back in, I want to make sure that everything's working correctly. So let's turn the key over. You notice that all the little gauges look like they're working correctly. So my gas gauge is back up. My truck's still a little warm from when I was driving it before. Battery's up to 12 volts. And then the tach and the speedometer aren't moving yet, but looks like they're working pretty good. So the tach is actually working properly. It's the first time I've seen it not like shudder and flutter the needle in like a year. That thing's been going out for a while. So I'm gonna go test drive it. I'm not gonna film that because I'm gonna be safe to make sure my speedometer is working. Then I'm gonna bolt this thing back in. All right, you guys, well, everything is back together. Took it on a test drive and everything was working correctly. All my gauges seemed to be fine. So that is how you replace the stepper motors in a GM truck. I believe the Suburbans, Tahoes, all Silverados from that 03 to 07 year should be about the same thing. And so if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Click subscribe, check out our other videos, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the trail.